If I ask you now, today, what is the problem of Nigeria? What would your answer be? Would it be insecurity? Would it be unemployment? Would it be marginalization of the Southeast, for instance? Would it be Islamization? Would you say that the problem of Nigeria is the constitution? What will your answer be? Will it be Fulanization? Will it be unemployment, insecurity, terrorism? What is the problem of Nigeria? If we can answer this problem, this question, truthfully and honestly and correctly, we will be 70% through solving the problems of Nigeria. So I ask you again, what is the problem of Nigeria? I have a different opinion. All these things that I just mentioned, they are not the problem of Nigeria. They are a mere symptom of the problem of Nigeria. Remember how when a person falls sick, test is conducted on the person to identify the cause of the sickness. For example, I went to visit my friend during this festive period, and he didn't call me for like 2 days, and it was odd because this is someone that we always spoke on a daily basis. So I went to visit him, and upon getting to his house, I found out that he was sick. He was running temperature and having headache, amongst other symptoms. So he was lying down in his house. So I asked him, have you taken any medication? He said, yes. What did you take? He said he took paracetamol. Paracetamol? Why paracetamol? He said that he believes that if he takes the paracetamol, that he will feel better. Now, he took the paracetamol. He felt better the first day. The second day, the symptom came again. He took paracetamol again. The symptom went away. And then the third day, it became worse because the symptom came back. The symptoms that this, my sick friend, felt, headache, high temperature, tiredness, they are the insecurity, the marginalization, the constitution, the Fulanization or Islamization, the insecurity, unemployment, the poverty. These are the symptoms that Nigeria is showing. The symptoms that Nigeria is displaying. They are not the problem. Just like the headache and the high temperature is not the problem that is making my friend really sick. So he went and took a test, and it was confirmed that he actually had typhoid, not malaria. Because the other suggestion that another of our friends was making was for him to take anti-malaria tablets. That it must be malaria. But upon testing him, it was discovered that his problem was not malaria, it was actually typhoid. And he was given appropriate treatment. As it is with this friend of mine, that is how it is with Nigeria. If we do not diagnose Nigeria's problems correctly, we'll keep applying the wrong solution. And that is why we are where we are today. So I come back to the question, what exactly is the problem of Nigeria? If the problem of Nigeria is not unemployment, if it is not marginalization, it's not the constitution, it's not all those things that I mentioned earlier, what then is the problem? Because I have stated here now that these are merely the symptoms. What is that virus? What is that bacteria? What is that parasite that is responsible for these symptoms? That is what we need to find out with Nigeria. If you're still watching this video, I salute your courage, because I understand that this video can be boring. It's not as interesting as your normal football match or your movie or your music video, which are tools that are used by the power structures that want Nigeria dependent on them. These are tools they use to keep Nigerians distracted and divided, so they can continue to blackmail their leaders and corrupt them into submission. And at the end of the day, Nigeria's resources, and indeed that of Africa, is available for them to use, all the while keeping Nigeria and Nigerians poor, hungry, and beggarly. This is their modus operandi. This is why it is absolutely important for us to correctly identify what the problem of Nigeria is. Like I said, this video is not as interesting as those weaponized contents that are created to distract and entice the Nigerian population. So if you're still watching, I salute your courage and I appreciate you. It shows that you have it in you to fix this country. You have it in you. So don't hesitate to share this video to others and also share this message so that they can all hear. Let's get to it. The problem of Nigeria is what I call colonial virus disease version 3. Colonial virus disease version 3. It's a virus that was designed to do several things, but the end result of what the virus was designed to do is exploit our resources by corrupting and holding our leaders to ransom, dividing and distracting the population so that they do not revolt, and at the end of the day, we continue to be dependent on them. In other words, the colonial virus disease is designed to make Nigeria, and indeed Africa, and indeed on other unsuspecting countries, to be slaves to the West. This is slavery 3.0. But many don't know it. Now, how does the colonial virus disease operate? How does it work? How does it affect Nigeria to manifest the constitutional problem, the marginalizational problem, insecurity, unemployment, Islamization? How does this colonial virus disease, how does it manifest these symptoms that we have been distracted to think are the problems of Nigeria? I'll tell you this. The first thing it does is to compromise and corrupt our leaders. And once that happens, they swoop in to use these same leaders to exploit our resources for their benefit, all the while keeping us dependent on them. But if they do that alone, then it is possible for the general population to arise in revolt, in protests. So what do they need to do? They have realized, and what they realize is made very, very clear in the movie The Woman King. That is one message that stuck with me from that movie. And what was it? The king said that the Europeans and the Americans have realized that in order to keep a people in chains, in order to keep them enslaved, you no longer need to use guns and weapons. All you need to do is to convince them. Is to convince them that they are meant to be bound. And once you succeed in convincing any people that they are meant to be bound, the people will take up the chains themselves and put it in their hands. That is one message that stuck with me from that movie, The Woman King. And that is the strategy that they are using. So, in Slavery 1.0, they came and used force, used trickery to forcefully take our strong, able-bodied men and women out of Nigeria, out of Africa, to the sugar plantations and the plantations in Americas, right? In Slavery 2.0, which was colonization, if you want to use that word, they came and they used guns. They bombarded us, they killed our strong, able-bodied men and women, and then they came to exploit our resources, right? And while they were able to do that in Slavery 1.0 and Slavery 2.0, is that they always had connivance. It's always the rat in the house that will tell the rat in the bush that there is food in the house. In Slavery 1.0, there were these people who were benefiting from the slave trade. Brothers who would betray their brothers and sell their brothers and sisters into slavery. There were those people. In Slavery 2.0, there were those brothers that also connived, that would sell their brothers and sisters just so that they can benefit from the things, the materials that the Europeans, the British, brought. In Slavery 3.0, they no longer need to use that force. What they now do is they found a way to convince Nigerians, to convince Africans that they are meant to be bound. And the result of it is that Africans have taken the chains and put them in their hands. The slavery 1.0, 2.0, our people were forcefully sent to the Americas with force, with heavy force. But in slavery 3.0, because they have succeeded in convincing us that we are meant to be bound, guess what is happening now? We are voluntarily taking the chains in our hands and putting them on in the name of Japa syndrome, in the name of relocation, in the name of seeking greener pasture. That is the number one sign that they have succeeded in mind controlling us, in brainwashing us to believe that we are truly meant to be bound. But this tool of mind control has been engaged and employed by these power structures of the global north, the Europe, the Americas, the Russians, the Chinese. These power structures, these white power structures, have found out that if they only corrupted our leaders and blackmailed them to do whatever they wanted, if they did that alone and the general population were left unbrainwashed, not mind controlled, if they did that, then the population will rise up to do what? To protest, to revolt. So what did they do? They employed this tactic of brainwashing, this tool of convincing the Nigerian people, the African people, that they are meant to be bound. And what are these tools? Education, music, sports, football, movies, tribalism, news, all of these things. Religion. How can I even forget religion? The most and the biggest one is religion. Now, these are tools that they use to mind control us, to mind control Nigerians, mind control Africans into submission, into believing that the Nigerian people, the African people, are meant to be in chains and therefore take up the chains of slavery themselves. They use this tool of mind controlling to do one of two things: to divide us so that we continue to be fighting against each other. They divide us along three lines: religious lines, political lines, and religious lines, ethnic lines. If you add on top of these three basic lines, then you can have divisions along sport lines, divisions along music lines, division along movie lines. They create these artificial divisions to keep us distracted, and so rather than unite to fight the corrupted leaders, we are busy engaging in fighting ourselves, being distracted. This is what they are doing. Many people do not understand why it is that despite the several punishing policies of Tinubu since May 29, in just 7 months, the policies of Tinubu has brought so much suffering upon Nigerians. But rather than for Nigerians to unite, to rise up against these policies, what are we doing? We are busy fighting amongst ourselves. Why? Because these people have succeeded in brainwashing us to divide us along ethnic lines, religious lines, and political lines. Those are the three basic ones. Others are superficial. Others are meant to keep us docile. You see, the religious division are meant to keep us docile. The sports, the football, the music, the entertainment, all of those are meant to keep us docile. And then the religious one, the ethnic ones, the political ones are meant to keep us fighting each other, dividing and conquering us. This is the problem of Nigeria. Now, if this is the problem of Nigeria, or the source, or at the core, the virus that is responsible for the sickness that Nigeria is experiencing, that is manifesting the symptoms that we see, symptoms such as unemployment, insecurity, hunger, corruption, all these are symptoms that have manifested from the sickness that has been caused by the virus called colonial virus disease. How do we cure Nigeria of this virus. Several things have happened. You remember I said at the heart of this virus, or at the heart of the modus operandi of this virus, is compromising, corrupting, and blackmailing our leaders into doing the bidding of these enslavers, these slavers, then distracting and dividing the general population into conflict and docility. Those are their modus operandi. So if we're going to get out of it, we need the people to be united against the imperialism, against the corruption of leaders. So how do we get the people to be unbrainwashed, to de-brainwash them, to de-mind control them? How do we do it? Because this distraction, this brainwashing, mind control that has been brought upon the people of Nigeria in such a way to divide them along religious, ethnic, and political lines, among others, is based on hunger and poverty. It is the weaponization of hunger and poverty that this strategy of mind control to divide and conquer is based on. Poverty. As long as 133 million Nigerians are living in extreme poverty, there is nothing anybody can do. We will continue to be divided along ethnic, religious, and political affiliation lines, so long as there is poverty, because the whole essence of the mind control, the brainwashing that comes from this weaponization of poverty, is to keep the average Nigerian docile, hoping, fighting, thinking that one day, if only they did the biddings of this corrupt politician, if only they played or acted nice to this corrupt politician, then one day, the corrupt politicians will bless them. One day, fortunes will smile on them. So they hope in hopelessness. That is the weaponization of poverty. So, if we're going to start to remove this brainwashing, remove this veil from the Nigerian people, the first thing that we need to do is to solve the problem of hunger and poverty for the people. Many people wonder and they are surprised and they keep blaming the people and say, oh, why would somebody sell his vote for 1,000 naira, for 2,000 naira, for 5,000 naira, and suffer the remainder of 4 years? Why would somebody do that? It is because of hunger and poverty. Look, it doesn't matter who is offended by this statement. The hungry man is a senseless man. The hungry man is a man that cannot think for himself. The Yorubas have an adage. They said, "Ẹni tí ò lówó, tálíkà ò ní wà, ìwà oníwà ló máa ń wú." Meaning that the poor man does not have character. He takes the character of others. Give a man money, his true character comes out. The average Nigerian, the average African, so long as the weapon of, or the weaponization of poverty is upon them, they cannot think straight. They cannot have a mind of their own to choose the right person during election. So long as hunger is in the land, which is the way these politicians want it. So long as hunger is in the land, Nigeria will continue to sink into worse and worse state. Why do you think that government after government, it appears that the succeeding government is worse than the previous government? That is how it has been. Why? Because of the weaponization of poverty that has been used by these power structures of the global north. This weaponization of poverty that they have used after corrupting, right, compromising, and blackmailing our leaders to do their bidding, in order for them to succeed in exploiting our resources. After doing that, what do they need to do? They weaponize the same poverty to divide us along ethnic and religious lines and political lines. And then what do? They use it to make us docile. Because think about it. Any Nigerian that has a family and is unable to feed that family knows how bad it feels. So he's willing to do anything. Lick anybody's boot, lick anybody's behind, lick their behind to get food on the table. They are willing to do that. So if we're going to solve this problem in Nigeria, the first thing is to solve the food problem. And for us to solve that food problem, my brothers, my sisters, fellow Nigerians, we need to solve the food problem for people. We need to sign into law the Free Food and Social Welfare Law. We need to sign it into law. It is expedient, it is important that we do it. In the Americas, United States of America, Canada, Mexico, in Europe, Germany, United Kingdom, these countries have social welfare support structures in place. In America alone, they have 64 programs that are designed to help people who cannot help themselves. They have the Nutritional Assistance Program, Supplementary Nutritional Assistance Program, they call it SNAP. They have other programs. In fact, they have Agricultural Farmer Subsidy Program, where they give money to farmers in order to help them produce more food so that there can be food in for the average American. They have these programs. Why can't we have it in Nigeria? They call themselves a capitalist economy. We call ourselves, Nigeria is called a mixed economy. In fact, if you look at the constitution of Nigeria very well, it is tilted more towards socialism. So we who are more socialist are more mixed economy than America or Europe, who are full-time capitalists. We are not putting any structures, anything in place to help the poor Nigerians out there. Meanwhile, they do that in Europe, they do that in the Americas. What does that tell about us? What does that say about our leaders? It tells how stupid, how dumb they are. Because, at best, from the realities on the ground, they are slaves. We are slaves. They are just the slave that lives in the compound of the masters, while we are the slaves that live in the farm. And I don't want to be a slave. I don't have an issue with Tinubu or with APC, but I have an issue with Nigeria and Nigerians being a slave. If the monies that these corrupt politicians steal were invested into Nigeria, Nigeria will develop. There will not be unemployment. But no, because these are compromised leaders, corrupted leaders, are blackmailed to do the biddings of these power structures in the world global north. Because that's what they are doing. It means that in doing what they do, in selling Nigerians to these global north powers, they are selling us into slavery. And that is where I have a problem. I have a problem with somebody selling my country, which I am a part of, into slavery again. And we are all slaves. We just don't know it. And it is my intention to open our eyes to it so that we can see how we can come together to do what? To solve it, to reclaim our freedom. The Americans are very smart. The Europeans are very smart. Unfortunately, our leaders in Africa, and indeed in Nigeria, they are so dumb. They get carried away with the vicissitudes of life, with the big cars, big houses. Think about it. And this one is for EFCC. Think about it. You are busy going around pursuing Yahoo boys in the name of illicit financial inflows into Nigeria. Illicit financial inflows into Nigeria. But tell me, how much of the monies of Europeans and the monies of Americans or the Asians, how much of their monies illegally or illicitly flow into Nigeria through these so-called Yahoo boys that you go after them with such venom? How much is that money compared to the illicit financial outflows? You go after Yahoo boys, you catch them, you put them in prison for the small dollars they bring into Nigeria or into Africa. Meanwhile, every year, trillions of dollars leave Africa to go to the Europe and the Americas and the Asia. Trillions of dollars. And they are not doing anything to stop illicit financial inflows into Europe, into America, into Asia. They are not doing it. And we are the ones doing it. Can't we see how stupid we are? EFCC, can't we see? These people have put structures in place to make us shoot ourselves in the foot. Now, I'm not holding brief for Yahoo boys, but come think about it. Any Yahoo boys that goes, because there are so many of them out there that actually also target Nigerians. Yes, they target Nigerians. Now, I'm against that. I'm against that. And I'm not saying that you should let Yahoo boys free. Let's do a trade. For every Yahoo boy money that you confiscate, let them release our trillions of dollars that in the Americas. And for every illicit financial inflows that you block in Nigeria, let them show us. Let US show us. Let Britain show us. Europe show us. Let Dubai show us. Let China show us how they are blocking our own illicit financial inflows into their country. The other day we saw a video of Festus Keyamo jogging in front of his house in the US, and that house is rumored to be worth $600,000. Tell me, the last time I traveled, I had about $9,000 cash in me. And at the airport, we were made to understand that you cannot take above $10,000 cash. And whatever dollars you had to declare. How is it that a Festus Keyamo is able to buy a house in the US, most certainly in cash? How did he get that cash out of Nigeria to the US to buy a house? I am not aware of any job or any business, any company that Festus Keyamo opened in the US that is so profitable that is able to make a profit of $600,000 in America, that he now used to buy a house in America. Most certainly, that money came from Nigeria. How did that money leave Nigeria to go to the US? We were here when Bloomberg released the report of how Tinubu's son, Tinubu, bought a house worth £10 million in the United Kingdom. £10 million in cash. How did that cash leave Nigeria? Tinubu does not have a company in the UK that works, that provides services and gets revenue to the extent that it has 10 million naira of profit. Yet, he was able to take 10 million pounds cash to buy a house that's not worth more than 200,000 pounds. In reality, they are just being fooled into spending Nigeria's money lavishly. So why is it that the Europeans, the Americans, they are not doing anything to stop our own illicit financial inflows into their country? This is how they have brainwashed us into dividing ourselves, to keeping us docile and keeping us fighting each other. We need to rise above this. And in order to do this, it is imperative that we feed every hungry Nigerian, as it is done in America, as it is done in Europe, as it is done in Asia. We need to do it. So, we need your support. We need your collaboration. In the link is a draft of the social welfare, of the free food and social welfare law. It's a draft. We have put in certain conditions in there. I want to beg you to go through it. Go through it and make your contributions. Then when we are done and we are satisfied with it, we will push it through the National Assembly. They must pass it, because then we will now begin to reveal who is really the enemy of the people. Right now, they succeed in dividing us along political lines by making us fight each other along religious lines, along tribal lines. But the truth of the matter, despite the fact that Tinubu came in shouting Yoruba Lokon, Yoruba Lokon, if you take a look around, you will find out that only few Yorubas are enjoying. The majority of Yorubas are still suffering from the policies, from the effect of the policies of Tinubu. So which means that at the core of the matter, tribe is not supposed to be a part of the problem. Because you have Yoruba hungry people, you have Igbo hungry people, you have Hausa hungry people across all the tribes. So what we need to do is push policies. A Tinubu will hide now and say, oh, he's for Yoruba people. By the time we push this policy and Tinubu does not support it, then the Yorubas will see clearly that really Tinubu is their own enemy. So this is a project that will expose the true enemies of Nigeria and divide Nigeria into the correct two groups. The group of the oppressed versus the oppressor. And once we have those two groups, we can push for a change in Nigeria, because those in the group of the oppressed are the vast majority. We need to push this law. After pushing this law, there are other things we need to do. We need to ban anybody working for government from going abroad for medical treatment or for education. We need to ensure that everybody working for government, and I mean everybody working for government, must send their children to public schools and public hospitals. Once we are able to do this, in addition to the fact that we must now, through the anti-corruption amnesty law, which is one of the 5 things, make sure that no government official or anybody intending to run for public office is allowed to store money abroad or buy properties abroad. Once we are able to do this, coupled with the fact that we will now roll out mass campaign to educate our people to do business. It has to be riches through enterprise, not riches through corruption, not riches through politics. No, it has to be riches through enterprise. And that can only happen when our people are again reorientated to begin to think of working and creating value. Once we do that by creating the business hub law, business support law, where we can use government funds to subsidize production centers along health, agriculture, and even manufacturing. Once we do that and encourage people, make it easy to start small business and get your returns selling globally. Once we are able to do this, Nigeria will be on the path to greatness in less than 6 months. But failure to do any of these 5 things, 2024 under Tinubu will be a horrible nightmare to the average Nigerians. Please, again, I say, we need your support. We need your collaboration. Go through the link. You'll see the draft law. Go through it. Let us know if you think it is okay. And if you have any observations, put it in there. Let us work together to correct it. And once we have something that is acceptable to the majority, because I'm sure it will not be acceptable to all, acceptable to the majority, we'll take it and push it to the National Assembly. We'll campaign. And for that campaign, we need people. It is not going to be a violent campaign. It's a strategic one. So we need your support. If you want to support, it's a lot to do what we are doing. There's an account number in the description. You can support us financially in any way you can. This is where you should be putting your tithe, because this is what we need to fix Nigeria. Not prayers. Not prayers. We need to take action. I'll see you in your correction.